Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Friday evening, December 15, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather's been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so we're still watching the models as it pertains to that system that's going to be developing across portions of the Gulf of Mexico and head into portions of the southern and eastern United States over the weekend, especially considering the fact that the models are still showing the tail end of whatever forms regarding that low pressure passing over portions of the greater Antilles. So we see the tail end right there represented by those greens and yellows. This is valid for 12Z on Sunday. When we calculate that, that's 7 a.m. and we can tell a lot of that rainfall across portions of western and southern Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Cuba. Skipping ahead to about, this is 12Z on Monday, so that's about 7 p.m. on Sunday. We still have more of that rainfall across portions of the Bahamas, eastern Cuba, Jamaica, and then even into portions of the Hispaniola era. This is valid for 12Z on Monday, about 7 a.m. when we calculate that. 1 p.m. something similar, more of that rainfall, and it doesn't seem to start to clear out until we get into late Tuesday. That's what the Euro model shows. What does the GFS model show? So we're going out in time. This is valid for 1 p.m. on Sunday, so we can see that the Euro is a bit quicker than the GFS. Moving ahead, this is valid for 7 p.m. on Sunday. See a lot of greens that represent moisture across the Jamaica area. Then by Monday, we still have some isolated showers. Tuesday, we still have some rainfall, but it's starting to clear out by late Tuesday. So something similar about the time period when it's clearing out. But the Euro seems to be starting the rainfall a bit sooner than the GFS. Either way, it's gonna be a wet weekend across the island, and the accumulated precipitation forecast maps confirm this, seeing a lot of purples, especially on the north coast of the island, that represent up to 2 inches of rainfall or more. More of those blues and those lighter shades of blues surrounding the island and majority of the greater Antilles, especially some purples across the eastern Gulf of Mexico, Florida, the east coast of the United States, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, Hispaniola. All of these islands are going to be plagued with some form of rainfall within the next 3 to 5 days. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with it. And that's what we look for. We look for consensus. We look for agreement with what both models are showing. And we have that. So if you have plans this weekend, ensure that you keep abreast of the weather so that your plans are not foiled. And if you have laundry to do, try to get it done as soon as possible and try to watch what the weather is like. Alright, so let's just take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see the clouds associated with that cold front that's going to be spawning the air flow pressure across the Gulf of Mexico, still stretching all the way from the northern section of North Atlantic all the way down into portions of the Bahamas, southern Florida, western Cuba, the Gulf of Mexico. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can still see those low level clouds pushing from east west across the northeastern Caribbean into the greater Antilles right here, Hispaniola, Jamaica. Got in on some amount of rainfall today, all courtesy of those clouds. And we can also see the clouds associated with that cold front, stretching all the way from northern sections of North Atlantic, all the way down into portions of the Bahamas, Florida, still affecting portions of the waters of the Gulf of Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, sections of the Cayman Islands, Cuba, with some amount of overcast skies, if not showers and thunderstorms. We'll be talking more about the Caribbean's weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today. It was stated that sections of some northern and eastern parishes in Jamaica would have received some early morning rainfall. And we know that when we're talking about early morning, we're talking about from midnight last night into the daytime hours for Friday. And that's exactly what happened. We definitely had sections of the island getting in on some nighttime rainfall all the way through to the daytime. And we also predicted that it would have affected sections of some central and western parishes, especially during Friday afternoon. And for your information, when we're talking about northern parishes, we're talking about those parishes such as Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. Eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey. So Kingston, St. Andrew, Portland, St. Thomas. Then, as predicted, central and western parishes during the afternoon. Central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, so St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine. And western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, so St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney. And what ended up happening? We saw that as early as 6:40 a.m., the Cuban Doppler radar images were posted to our Twitter page. Keep in mind that they're not only posted here on Twitter, but our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok page. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make some other posts that are not made here on our YouTube page that you can't afford to miss. So definitely we see at 6:40 a.m. the Cuban Doppler radar images were posted highlighting the greens that represent some amount of light to moderate rainfall, even some yellows in there, affecting sections of some northern parishes in Jamaica. Definitely St. James, Hanover, Trelawney got in on some of that. And the thing is, we've been getting reports that it has been raining all night across sections of the island, even on the south coast as well. Then later on, at 10:51 a.m., the visible satellite images were posted, highlighting some clouds, bringing some overcast skies, and isolated shortest sections of some central and eastern parishes, especially on the north coast. And we even have confirmation of this rainfall. Lamont Rake stating cloudy with some isolated shower. Even on our Facebook, we had confirmation of this rainfall. Shanique Cassandra raining in May Pen, Clarendon, Kiva Gray raining cats and dogs in Linstead, Georgette Matthews raining in Drexel, St. Anne, Cottish Brook stating dark clouds here. Even on our Instagram page, we had commenters Sapphire Willie Marsh 29N stating raining in Mobay from early this morning. Sassy La Hermosa stating pouring in Clarendon. Even Andre Francis Knight confirming the rainfall in St. Mary, heavy rain here. Empress Key stating rain at here from last night in Portland. Then another post was made at 1:51 a.m. highlighting the visible satellite images showing clouds bringing overcast skies and isolated shortest sections of most parishes, eastern, central, and western parishes, just as predicted. And we have the confirmation ML LM Mulan stating Buff Bay pouring, beautiful, cool, and cozy, smoking, grum, dark. Then on our Instagram page, Rare Gold Star, heavy rains in Old Harbor, Robinson Andrew 37, rain in Spain. Then finally, the live cam from See Jamaica's YouTube channel was posted, just a clip from it, showing the halfway tree cam. Some amount of light to moderate rainfall affecting sections of halfway tree at the time, and we even saw a lot of persons walking with their umbrella, lots of windshield wipers on. By the way, we usually show these live clips from See Jamaica's YouTube channel. We have because we have a partnership with that channel, so please show them your support as we make some mini posts on we make we like to post some of their live clips here on our YouTube channel, all because we have a partnership with that channel. So ensure that you subscribe. You'll see much more of this, not only halfway tree, but crossroads, even the downtown area. All right, so we even had comments coming on this clip. Rain in Kingston, Marberrylicious, Livin or Livin. God's favorite daughter 46, Kingston overcast, rain during play school. And finally, we had Princess Shell stating, was raining in Portmore, been raining since last night in my era, hasn't stopped by the humble chick. And if we take a look at the latest from the halfway tree camp, we don't see much happening right now. What we actually see, people actually, trying to hustle and bustle and get about their business, whether to work for the night shift or back home. We don't see much persons walking with their umbrella, don't see any windshield wipers on at that time, at this time. Alright, so if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, all up to now, we still had some amount of clouds bringing overcast skies and some isolated showers, even more in the way of moderate to heavy rainfall across some spots. Latest infrared satellite images actually show some amount of high cold cloud tops that indicate some amount of convection, and we saw most of those being blown off towards the southeast, as indicated by what we predicted yesterday with those upper level winds coming from the northwest. And if you even look closely, we can see one or two sparkling white dots that indicate some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. Taking a look at the latest Cuban Doppler radar images, what we see are somewhat of greens that represent some isolated shores still affecting the waters to the east of Jamaica, to the west of Jamaica. More rainfall for sections of eastern Jamaica tonight, definitely coming in to Portland and St. Thomas. We see somewhat of rainfall still trying to exit the Westmoreland and Hanover coast at this time as well. Taking a look at the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours. This map does indeed confirm what we just saw on the satellite images. We had rainfall stretching all the way from the east to the western side of the island, and we can see that majority of that rainfall was confined to sections of the east and the north and the west. So not so much on the south coast, but we saw that we had some amount of rainfall across most areas. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we have 27 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. And by about 4 a.m. on Saturday morning, the temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 23 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the Sahara, not the Saharan dust, the actual temperatures that are being forecasted for tomorrow, we're starting to see things starting to warm back up. Look at Jamaica. We still have some amount of grays across the island that represent normal temperatures, but we do see some of that yellow starting to intrude that represent above normal temperatures. And we know the yellow, as we can see by the key on the right, represents 1 degree Celsius above normal temperatures. This is valid from the GFS for 18Z on Saturday. When we calculate 18Z, that's actually 1 p.m. Jamaica time. So that's what's being predicted, at least average to slightly average, maybe 1 degree Celsius above normal temperatures. I know the average or the normal temperatures for December across Jamaica is about 87 degrees Fahrenheit. When we take a look at the thermometer, 87 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 30 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 30 to 31 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Saturday. Taking a look at the dry air map, we can still see some amount of dry air across portions of the Caribbean, including Jamaica, as indicated by those yellows, oranges, even some reds in there. And we see the key at the bottom that represents this. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast map, 2 p.m. on Saturday has majority of the dust across portions of Africa, the main development region. We're starting to see it push westward now. Yesterday it was a bit closer to Africa. Tomorrow it's going to be closer to the Caribbean. Hopefully, by the time it enters or affects the Caribbean, it is not that robust with all of those darker shades of browns. The darker shades of browns is what we don't want to see at all. Either way, Jamaica should be clear for 2 p.m. on Saturday. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that both the Euro and the GFS model still showing much in the way of blues surrounding the island. We can see by the key on the bottom right that the blues represent anywhere from 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights. That's because the winds are going to be coming in from the east southeast across the island tomorrow, maybe even more so from the southeast. And we can see more in the way of greens coming across the island as well. I know the greens represent anywhere from 15 to 20 knot winds. Even out to sea to the south of St. Thomas, we see some pockets of yellows, maybe getting or gusting up to 25 knot winds. Who knows? Either way, any rainfall that's expected is gonna be coming in from the east, southeast, or the southeast, affecting portions of some southeastern parishes. So maybe sections of Kingston, St. Andrew, sections of St. Thomas, maybe coastal areas of St. Catherine, Clarendon. That's the direction the low level flow is coming in from. So that's the direction that the clouds are gonna be coming in from to bring some amount of isolated showers. And then wherever it exits, wherever all of that air piles up, where we see those blues, that's where the 5 to 10 knot winds are going to be. That's where all of the low level clouds are going to be piling up during the afternoon and then bringing some amount of overcast skies and isolated showers. When those clouds get heavy enough, who knows, maybe bringing some amount of thunderstorm activity across the north and west. So maybe sections of Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney might get in on some of that. So basically, it's stating southern and eastern parishes in the morning, northern and western Jamaica during the afternoon. That's what's being forecasted by the wind. As it relates to the upper level winds, we see it coming in more so from the west southwest. So it could be favoring more of that afternoon rainfall across sections of some northern parishes in Jamaica. Either way, let's take a look at the meat of the matter. This is what we're here for. The rainfall forecast by the hour. So we can see that even as early as midnight tonight, 12 a.m., where do we see the consensus for rainfall across Jamaica? We see the consensus across maybe sections of some northeastern parishes. See the blues that represent rainfall, maybe section the coastal areas of St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, the GFS showing some of that as well across the same spots, but incorporating sections of eastern St. Thomas in that. Skipping ahead to about 9 a.m. now on Saturday, we see the blues on the Euro model across sections of St. Thomas and Portland for rainfall. GFS showing something similar, even some darker shades of blues that represent some amount of rainfall for St. Thomas. Not so much across the rest of the island at that time. Skipping ahead now to about 1 p.m. on Saturday, what do we see on both the Euro and the GFS malls? We actually see more so in the way of rainfall for sections of some southern and eastern parishes, and it makes sense with that southeasterly or east southeasterly flow across the island. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS malls are in consensus with this. Then, looking at 4 p.m., what do we see? The Euro model showing more of those blues that represent rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes, starting to incorporate the northwest on the Euro model. GFS, something similar, still having a lot of blues across eastern Jamaica with that rainfall. Northern Jamaica getting in on some of that. Look at St. Mary, St. Anne, sections of St. James, Hanover getting in on some of that. And even at around 8 p.m. on Saturday, we still have much of the same, especially across eastern parishes. Look at all of those blues that represent rainfall across sections of St. Thomas and Portland. So it's definitely going to be a very wet day across those eastern parishes, and it makes sense that both the Euro and the GFS are in consensus that most of the rainfall that's going to be taking place tomorrow, within the next 24 hours, that is going to be taking place across eastern Jamaica. The Euro showing up to 0.27 of an inch of rainfall across the east, GFS showing up to 0.47 of an inch of rainfall. Either way, we have the consensus. Sections of the island are going to be receiving some amount of rainfall within the next 24 hours. And we can see that majority of the rainfall is going to be confined to the east. We're in the month of December. We're actually in the first month of our dry season. And we've been getting rainfall, especially on the north coast. We're indeed grateful for the rainfall. Any rainfall is actually a good thing as long as it's not too much to cause some amount of death or destruction, because what we don't want is a drought, and the dry seasons are usually not so nice to Jamaica. You know, the National Water Commission usually imposes some form of restriction throughout the year because of the low rainfall. So we'll take all the rainfall that we can get in December to put a dent in the upcoming drought that we could be going through, especially during the month of February and even March. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we do see a lot of clouds across portions of the intertropical convergence zone between Africa and northeastern South America, associated with the winds that are coming in from the northeast on the Atlantic northern hemisphere, and the winds that are coming in from the southeast on the Atlantic's southern hemisphere. So all of that here piles up and brings some amount of thunderstorm activity across the ITCZ. So it's not anything that's going to be developing and heading into the Caribbean at all. What we do see, however, are a lot of high level clouds streaking in from northern South America, coming in from the southwest across portions of the eastern Caribbean. We know that those high level clouds don't have rainfall within them, but what does have the rainfall within them are those low level clouds pushing from east to west. And we do see those clouds across portions of the Windward Islands, the Leeward Islands, sections of Jamaica, and we saw some of that affecting sections of the islands today. If we actually take a look, a better look, or a close up of the Doppler radar images so we can actually see where got the rainfall, we can see that definitely Puerto Rico, northern coastal areas of Puerto Rico, getting in on some rainfall as we speak. Sections of the British Virgin Islands, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis getting in on some amount of rainfall right now. And if we actually take a look back at the Doppler radar images throughout the day today, we saw that sections of Puerto Rico definitely gotten on some amount of rainfall. Dominica, Guadeloupe. Taking a look at the Barbados radar, we can see that there's definitely some amount of isolated showers passing to the north of Barbados right now. Some of that rainfall coming in from the east, affecting portions of Barbados as we speak. Sections of St. Vincent getting in on some heavy rainfall right now. The Grenadines, Grenada getting in on some of that. And we don't see much happening right now across Trinidad and Tobago, but that could change. Taking a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see all of that rainfall to the southwest of Florida associated with that cold front. Some isolated pockets of showers here and there across the Yucatan Peninsula. The rainfall that we just mentioned across Puerto Rico. Even some rainfall coming into sections of French Guiana and even sections of Colombia. As it relates to the temperature forecast map, we can see that majority of the Caribbean should be getting in on some average to slightly above average temperatures, maybe even close to at least 2 to 3 degrees Celsius above average. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast, majority of the Caribbean should be in the clear for 2 p.m. on Saturday, as all the dust associated with the Sahara Desert should be across the main development region and Africa. Hopefully, it doesn't make it to the Caribbean with such vigor. Hopefully, it dwindles by the time it makes it, if it makes it to the Caribbean. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that both the Euro and the GFS are starting to come down across the Caribbean with those high wave heights that were low, that were represented by the purples. Now we're having more and we have blues. I know the blues represent anywhere from 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights. Maybe the waters of the north coast of the northeastern Caribbean, so sections of the northern portion of Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, maybe the northern section of the Leeward Islands might get in on some of those 2 meter wave heights as represented by those purples. And that's because the winds are still strongest wherever we have those high wave heights, those yellows, especially starting to go into that system that's spinning to the west of Florida, starting to form that area of low pressure with those strong winds. Definitely going to be gusting 25 to 30 knots, maybe even more than that across those areas. But we do see the winds with a mixture of green and yellow across the northern portion of those islands, which explains the high wave heights. While the rest of the Caribbean should be getting in on those lighter shades of greens, as well as some bright shades of greens coming in from the east, averaging anywhere from 15 to 20 knots at most. As it relates to the rainfall forecast, now this is why we're here. This is what we want to see the most. Taking a look, keep in mind that these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Saturday. We're actually seeing that there's a lot of rainfall in store for the waters of the Gulf of Mexico right there near Florida. Definitely a lot of flash flooding going to be taking place across Florida, western Cuba, coastal areas of the Yucatan Peninsula, the Bahamas, section of the Cayman Islands, Honduras, Nicaragua, Belize, Guatemala, gonna be getting in on some amount of rainfall. Not so much rainfall in store for Nicaragua for once, but we do see some amount of rainfall in store for sections of Costa Rica, Panama, sections of Colombia, southern Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana. Look at the eastern Caribbean starting to get very wet. Areas to the north of Grenada could be getting in on some amount of rainfall. So St. Vincent, Barbados, St. Lucia, and we can also see some rainfall across sections of the Leeward Islands. So Antigua and Barbuda, St. Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis, sections of the US and British Virgin Islands, definitely eastern Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic could get in on some of that as well. And we know that when both maps from the Euro and the GFS malls are showing something similar like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.